Okay, fellow group members, I've tried very hard to format the material I wanted to present to you, and I really haven't found a good way to do it or a short way to do it. So what I decided to do was break it up into three sections, and this is the first one here. What I'm going to do in this section is three different things. First, I'm going to try to convince you that pencil and paper puzzles have a place in school. They, of course, can be modernized, so they can be put on the screen and done on computers, but my preference is to have them done on paper. Second, I'll show you some things about puzzles and worksheets and how they're constructed to help you understand parts 2 and 3 of my video series here. And finally, I'm going to talk about classrooms and schools and where I see puzzles fit into education. So we're going to start with this review sheet. Whoops. If I can figure out how to get the next slide. Come on, babies. There we are. This review sheet is one that I gave to my students in Taiwan. It was late in the afternoon, and my students worked very long days. They got to school at 7:30 in the morning and left at 6 in the evening. So they weren't really in the mood to do a lot of hard work. Now, students in Taiwan get lots of worksheets like this every month, 100 or more probably, and usually many pages long. So they weren't happy to see another one. I told them, there really wasn't much choice. I tried to give them a pep talk and encourage them, and they did it eventually. But when I got home that night, I was really unhappy about the fact that I had made them unhappy. And that night, I started to think about ways that I could rework this exercise that would make it more enjoyable for them to do. And this is what I came up with. All I did was I moved the places where the students wrote the answers and changed it a bit so they weren't writing on just a simple straight line like we have here. And then I took all the questions and I grouped them together and I moved them off to one side of the page. And what I ended up with was something that looked like this. Now, because of the writing system used in Chinese people don't do crossword puzzles, right? It just doesn't make sense because they don't have a phonetic alphabet to work with. So I had to explain to the kids how to do a crossword puzzle. But they were really enthused about this, and they did it very, very cheerfully. And I was quite surprised because really this worksheet and the previous worksheet are almost identical. But one is fun and one isn't. And that's why I think, in large measure, there's a place in school for these kinds of exercises because they're kind of a voluntary study. You just dress up work like it's something new. Now, here is a worksheet created with a piece of software called 123 Word Search Maker that I'm going to talk about and demonstrate in the second video. This is the handout that's the resulting product of making a puzzle. In fact, it's their demonstration puzzle. This is what the company will show you if you ask, okay, what are the strengths about your piece of software? What can it do? And this is what it will come back with. And I think this is useful to help me demonstrate what the basic elements of all handouts that teachers give to students are. So over here, using my not so elegant mouse-drawn handwork, I've numbered the different parts of a worksheet. And you can see here, we start with part number 1, And number one is the ID section. If you're going to collect students' work and correct it, you need to be able to match the student with the work that they've done. So it's good to have a place where you can put the name, class, date, and whatever other information you think is important. Now, number two is the title of the worksheet. And number three is written there, but actually is not present on the worksheet, and that's the subtitle. There should be one, or you should be able to add one with this software, but you can't, which I think is a poor arrangement because titles and subtitles go together. If you look at newspaper headlines, you'll see they're always paired, and that's because they do different jobs that facilitate the same outcome. A headline is there to catch your attention, right? This is a headline that I found when I was making this presentation. Parents outraged. But why? You don't know. That's where the subtitle comes in, to put the headline in context. And why are they outraged? Because a teacher has told them that their 6-year-old son is transphobic. Right? So you use the headline to draw attention and then use the subtitle to focus that attention and explain what the activity will be more clearly. The next part, number 4, is right here, and these are the instructions. Now, if you show North Americans this kind of worksheet, 95% of them will know exactly what to do without any explanation. But there will be some people who are seeing it for this find words for the first time, and they need help. And the other reason you want to have instructions is you can put new vocabulary in the instructions. You can use the instructions, which the students will read, as a teaching opportunity. And if you just put in 1 or 2 new words that they have to ask about or check the meaning of, unconsciously, you've got them in a learning situation that they don't realize it. The 5th part is the puzzle, right? Or if it's a traditional worksheet, the questions. And this is very important. It's the most prominent feature of a worksheet. It needs to be big, and particularly if you're dealing with young children or people who have difficulty seeing, you want it to be quite large, much larger than it is on this sheet here. 6 down here is the word bank, where the candidate answers are. And lots of worksheets have different versions of this. And then finally, 7 is the solution. Generally, only the teacher gets this, and the solution is really important because it's much faster to compare 2 images than it is to compare 2 pieces of text. So if you have a solution like this that the teacher can just glance and see, okay, I have lines on this page and in this direction, in this area on the page, and the student has lines in that area in the same page, you know instantly that the student has found the right answer. So now those are all the basic parts of a worksheet, and when I do parts 2 and 3, we'll be talking about all those parts. Now finally, I want to talk about how I think about classrooms and school. I think a happy classroom is very much like a happy family. Both are populated by people who like and respect each other. There are older people whose job it is to instruct and set an example for the younger people. In both environments, there's work that is done. Sometimes it's taking notes, sometimes it's washing the dishes. And in both environments, there are times that are devoted to just having fun together. In those fun times, it's good to have a variety of activities. That is partly because different people like different things, but also because the younger members of the family are still finding their talents and interests. It is important for them to explore different forms of engagement so they can learn which ones they flourish in. In classrooms, it is good to have different activities in different environments too. During the day, you'll have different ambiances in the classroom because different students thrive in different environments. So you will have periods where the teacher talks in front of the class and all the students listen. There will be times when no one talks and the students work at their desks. Other times there will be class discussions, and sometimes people will discuss in small groups, and there'll be many conversations going on at one time. Occasionally, everyone will engage in a group activity that's just designed to be fun. So in any given school day, there are lots of times when these pencil and paper activities can add to what's happening in the classroom. Here's a couple that come to mind immediately. Right? They can be as whole class activities where the students, each individual is focused on solving a puzzle. These are great for review. When all the students are doing seat work, not all students finish at the same time. Usually the better students finish first, and they have nothing to do while they wait for the slower students to get help from the teacher or solve, the problems at a slower pace. If you have a bunch of worksheets handy that the finished students can go and take and work on while the teacher is helping the slower students, that's an asset in the classroom. And finally, many classrooms have teaching assistants, and they work one-on-one with students who are having problems, and they can use puzzles in their work. So I think I'm going to call this section of the video here. I feel there's many opportunities in a class to use the types of puzzles that we'll be making with our software.